I use this. Oh, hello.
Hi, Julia, can you hear us? Okay, she says, yep. I'll let her know that.
So Julia's going to be asking the questions or
Yeah, she's the host for the chat, so she's got the list of questions to ask you.
awesome.
And then other girls may drop in as well because the link is on our website.
Okay, great.
I'm just asking Julia if she has a microphone or if she needs to chat by text. Are you typing? Oh, okay. But Julia, you can still hear us. You don't need to, like, we don't need to type everything that we're saying. Okay. I think I can hear your typing, Julia. So I wonder if you say hello, if we'll hear you.
Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you, Julia.
Okay, I think it might be the camera that's not working then.
Well, we can go without having the video running. It's most important that we're all here together. So now, Julia, have you met Kirsten face to face, or when you sent her questions before, was that via email?
That was on email.
Okay, cool.
Was that
So
for this or did you send me questions just on the side?
For this chat or before?
Oh yeah, was it before this chat or?
Yeah, before the chat.
Oh, okay.
yep, she sent you some questions. It's probably several months ago now
I think it
for
was a
because
year ago.
we
Oh, so sample questions? Yeah, I think I remember that.
yeah, and then we ran your responses in the magazine with the review in it. Have you gotten your
Oh,
copy of this yet, Kirsten?
I believe I have. Yes.
Okay, cool. So Julia wrote the review featured there. And she's going to be hosting with us. And then if we have other girls join us, I'll manage that and just sort of help them get situated in the room. But I think that since it's officially after 7 here and after 8 there and after 5 where you are, right, Julia?
Yeah.
I think that we can go ahead and get started if you want to ask your first question. And I have a couple of questions that girls have sent in too that I'll ask as well.
Yeah, sure.
Awesome.
Okay. The first one, which Kiki Strike character is your favorite in all of the books?
Uh, uh, in all of the books. Well, I have two favorites. I'm my I guess my number one favorite is Iris McLeod, because she is. I'm a big fan of the underdog, and poor Iris is what 2 3 years younger than everyone else, and they treat her often with very little respect, and she ends up saving her butt on every possible opportunity. So she's always been a big favorite of mine. She also reminds me a lot of my daughter. And my other favorite character is Molly Donovan, sort of she's the, how would you describe her? She's kind of the girl with a genius for causing trouble. She's not one of the irregulars. But she plays a big role in the third book, and I love her. I love very naughty young people.
Do you want to ask your next question, Julia, or do you want me to ask one of mine?
I'll ask another. Are
Okay,
you
great.
planning on writing any more books in the series?
You know what? I would love to. it's funny because I'm working on a project right now, a series of books, um, with the actor Jason Segel, and they're about nightmares, and they're for this age group as well. Although they're not quite as I have sophisticated, but I don't mean that in a bad way. So I'm going to be pretty busy for the next year or two. So I'm not taking on any more projects until those are finished. And but after that, I don't know. I might, if I do write another one, I know that it'll focus on Luz Lopez, and I know that it will be set in Brooklyn. And I also know that there will be a villain named Bedellatrix. That's as far as I've gotten. And she lives on a houseboat in the stinking, disgusting, polluted Gowanus Canal here in Brooklyn. So that's all I know.
It sounds like you know enough to get started.
Oh, I could probably write a fourth Kiki Strike book in a couple of months, just because.
Wow.
Yeah, once you know the characters so well and you know exactly what they would do in different situations, and you've had ideas kind of bouncing around in the back of your head for a long time, it's pretty easy. But it takes a long time to get to that point.
Yeah.
But but yeah, no, I would love to write it a fourth, even if it was just for fun. I might just do it and stick it on the internet at some point.
Well, I'll be the first to read it.
I'll send it to you first.
Okay, thank you.
So I'm curious, you say that, it takes a while to get to the point where you know the characters so well that you can write a new story in a matter of months. How long have you been working with the series? I know that the first book was published in 2006, but when did you start thinking about it and then start writing your first draft?
Oh, well beyond that. Well before that. Um, well, Kiki Strike as a character had been in my head, gosh, probably since the late 90s.
Mm.
So I knew that I wanted to do something with her. I wasn't sure it was going to be a book. I thought that I might want to do sort of almost a street art campaign with her. I
Oh,
like
cool.
the idea of a little girl mastermind going around New York and taking credit for all the stuff that happens here. Showing up as a silhouette on a wall and saying, "Oh yeah, that hole on Fifth Avenue, that was me. Sorry about that." But so she had been in my head for a long, long time, and I think that I started writing, although I didn't know it was a book. But I started writing the first Kiki Strike probably in 2000, believe it or not.
Okay.
And I stopped actually for a little while after 9/11
Mm.
because the book was all about New York, and I thought, I don't know, I was worried that New York might not exist for very long. So I paused for a little while and picked it back up probably, I don't know, in 2003, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's interesting that you say that because I checked to see when the book was published because of the plot with the maps where they're like, oh, this would be a terrorist dream to get these maps. And people that like that word like rings so many more bells now than it used to. I
Right.
feel like, pre 2001, even though we'd had like the Oklahoma City bombing and things like that, um, we hadn't had sort of a large scale attack. And I felt so I was curious. I was like, when was this written and how close to the attacks was it and things like that. So it's interesting to hear you say that that actually did affect your process.
Oh, it did. It did. I stopped writing it for probably 2 years. And
Yeah.
it messed with people's heads here quite a bit, that whole event. So yeah, I took a break. But that map that's described in the book, the nice map, as they call it,
Mm-hmm.
that's a real map. That exists. I read about it in the New Yorker.
Wow.
If you can dig up that old copy, you can read all about it. I think it was
I
like Adam Gopnik.
I did wonder a lot of the informational stuff. I was like, I wonder how much of this is true. But I'm going to ask you one of the questions that one of the girls sent me,
Okay.
and maybe get to my questions later on. Um, so there's a girl, Sophia, she's 10 years old, and she wants to ask how you can fill a whole book. She says, I've tried to write a book and I can only fill 2 pages.
Sophia, that is a very good question. One that I'm trying to answer right now. I'll tell you the secret. So, first of all, 2 pages is a good start. Believe it or not, 2 pages is a very good start. And I think that the secret is just writing a little bit every day. So even if you wrote 100 words, which is nothing, it's like a paragraph. If you wrote 100 words every day, by the end of the year, you'd have a book. So, or maybe 2 years, but little bits at a time, and they really add up. And if you take if you try just to write a paragraph every day, you'll be able to think about what you want to write. You'll be able to make sure that it's as good as you want it to be. You won't feel like you're under a lot of pressure to write more than you can or should. And yeah, I think that's the secret. So try that out. If you wrote a paragraph every day for the next month, you would definitely have a very nice sized short story at the end of it. So give that a shot.
Thank you. Julia, do you want to ask another one of your questions?
Yeah, sure. I have the list here. Okay. Where do you get all of your inspiration for all of the books?
Um, well, I live in New York, and I came to school here when I was 17, so I've been here for a very long time. And I get most of my inspiration walking around. So one of the nice things about New York is that you can set out on a walk and see something new and different on every single block if you're paying attention. And there's always something unusual around the next corner. There's always something interesting to see. And if you keep your eyes open, which I will say most people do not, if you keep your eyes open and really look at what's going on around you, you will have plenty of material for a book after a while. So that's what I do. I'll walk around. I try to read, not just books, but newspapers and magazines and things of that sort. All that stuff that nobody reads anymore. And yeah, just anywhere and everywhere, but mostly it's just walking around. I think that that's an underappreciated source of inspiration for a lot of writers. There's a reason so many of them live here.
Yeah, Julia Cameron says that like the 3 ingredients to a creative life are journaling, walking, and then just going out and seeing things that inspire you. And I think you're right. I mean,
Yeah.
you're seeing things as you walk that inspire you, but just the process of walking sort of keeps your mind going too.
Yeah, and randomness. I will tell
Yeah.
you that. That's the other thing. It's sort of, especially these days when you go, when you can go online and Amazon will tell you exactly what books you're going to like because you liked all of gave 5 stars to these other books, or you'll be able to find out exactly what kind of music that you like because it's just like all the music that you've liked before in the past. It's very easy to fall into a rut. And I think that it's that randomness, just doing things unexpectedly. Going to the library and choosing a book that, just by random, or taking a different route to school every day, or trying things that you've never tried before. I mean, it's so easy to for to just fall into the rut and do the same thing every day. And I think if you try to encourage yourself to do something different every day, you will definitely. It's also one of the secrets to a creative life, I think.
Yeah. Julia, speaking of how you discover new things, I'm curious, how did you find out about the Kiki Strike books? It sounds like you've been reading them for a while.
I think my mom found it somewhere when I was really little, and then she bought it, and I didn't look at it until I was a lot older. And then since then, I think I've read it like 15 times.
How old were you when you first read it?
I think I was either 10 or 11.
Hmm. Yeah, 10. I think 10 and 11. That's the that's kind of the perfect age for Kiki Strike. It's just sort of right at that moment when you're not a little kid anymore, but you're
Hmm.
not a teenager, and you're certainly not an adult, and you're kind of in this weird world in between where I don't know. Suddenly, I think that around the between the ages of 10 and 12, things just suddenly become possible in weird
Hmm.
ways. It's sort of a magical time in people's lives, I think. So that's why so many of my books are about 10 to 12-year-olds.
And you're 13, right, Julia? Now?
14.
14. Okay.
Couple
Have
weeks.
you have you been to New York before?
I was there when I think I was 9 or something for like 2 days.
Oh,
Okay.
Want to go back
Someday,
though.
yeah, someday you'll have to visit again and you'll be able to think about Kiki Strike because you've read so many of the books.
oh yeah.
Hmm.
I actually have if you ever come back, I actually did a guide to New York that I put
I read
on.
that. I tried to get
Oh,
my
did
dad to take me on his business trip to go to those places, but he wouldn't want to.
you? Oh, good. I'm glad you read it. That's hilarious. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun doing that.
What's
So,
the name of the guide, Kirsten, so that girls who watch this later might be able to find it?
what is it called? It's called, I think it's just called An Irregular's Guide to New York.
Okay.
Um, and I'll send you a link after this just so people can go straight there. But I think it's on my blog, although I haven't updated my blog in a very long time. So I, I I took a vacation from the internet for a while.
Nice. I'm glad you came back for our chat from your vacation.
Well, I'm back for I just I'm around. I just don't. Yeah, it's got a little. This is one of the and I don't know if you've heard other authors talk about this, but it is the amount of time and energy that you have to spend on um, your websites and
Hmm.
your Facebooks and your Twitters, and I mean it's just it can become unbelievably
Hmm.
time consuming to the point where it actually becomes hard to write.
Hmm.
So I don't know. I was very into it for a very long time and had a blog that I was religious about keeping up to date. And then I just had to take a break to step out. I should probably find a happy medium between doing everything and doing nothing. But for the moment, I'm just doing nothing.
Similar to, I'm going to ask Tegan's question because it's similar to the one that Julia just asked about where you get inspired for your stories. She wants to know, and she's 8, by the way. She wants to know specifically how you get ideas for your characters.
Oh, well, so a lot of my characters are based a bit on people that I know. So, and some of them are people that I like, and some of them are people that I don't like. So that's why you never want to make an author mad, because they will put you in their books and they will make you sort of somebody who picks their nose all the time or something. So, so let's see. The people I like. Luz Lopez is a lot like my mom. She's my mom is was has always been very tomboyish. She wears her hair in a ponytail just like Luce. She also can be very grumpy, just like Luce. Dee Dee Morlock has certain qualities, shares certain qualities with my sister. They're both giant slobs, but otherwise very nice people. And the princess is actually Sidonia is based on a girl that was very, very mean to me when I was in the ninth grade. So I took my revenge by writing her into a book and making her a evil, horrible human being. So that's the answer. I guess I steal the characters from real people.
Hmm.
I also steal their names. I have a little book that I keep of names that I want to use at some point. So It's because coming up with names and matching the right name to a character is one of the more difficult things about writing a book, because a character's name says so much about them, and
Mm-hmm.
they have like, for instance, I'm working on a book right now, and there's a character in it whose name has changed like 3 or 4 times, and I still don't feel like I've completely got it right. But so yeah.
So
Anyway, long.
when you write down names that you think you might want to use for characters in the future, do you get sort of a feeling about what type of character might be associated with that name, or do you just keep them because you like them and then look at it when you need a character name?
Oh no, it's a little bit of both, but like usually I will like a name because I can see what kind of character would have it. Like
Mm-hmm.
for example, I told you if there was a fourth Kiki Strike book, then the villain would be named Bellatrix. And there's a reason for that. So one day I was in a cab in New York, and the driver was a woman, which is really, really rare. Like, I think in the 20 some odd years that I've lived in New York, I've maybe had 3 female taxi drivers
Hmm.
the entire time. So this woman, I was very impressed. You have to be tough as a woman to be a cab driver. And I looked at her name plate in the back seat, and her name was Bellatrix. And
Wow.
immediately I thought, wow, that would be a great villain. And she would be the sort of person who would wear like those very big, long Lee press-on nails. And she would raise chinchillas. So, so I immediately knew, like just from the name, what kind of character it would be. So sometimes it's that, and sometimes it's just sort of a name that hasn't occurred to me before that I like and want to use.
I can see those characteristics kind of fitting with that name.
Well, it helps that, it helps that I'm not writing super realistic fiction, though.
Yeah.
I can make my characters whatever I want them to be. So,
Julia, did you want to ask your next question?
Yeah, sure. In the books, they travel a lot, but what's your favorite place you've been to
in New York or
in the
elsewhere?
world?
In the world, let's see. Um, where do I like the most? Um, I really love Tokyo. I think Tokyo is, um, and in Tokyo, I like cities like Tokyo and London and New York that are a bit of a mess, where they're not beautiful. Like Paris bores me. Paris, every street looks the same. In Tokyo and in New York and in London, everything looks completely different. You never know what you're going to find. And every street is completely unique. And I love just going out, and one of my favorite things to do is, uh, you know, get to the hotel, put your stuff down, and then just go out and start walking around. And, have a map on your phone or whatever in your backpack, but just go out and get lost and then find your way back. And I think that that is, I don't know, there's something so, that's how you get to know a place. Isn't It's not by going out and, following the guidebooks or, going where people have told you to go. It's really by going out there and not being afraid to get lost. But I also like, so I also, in August, I went to Iceland, which was very cool.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was interesting. But I took my daughter, and who's 5, and we went to volcanoes, and we saw geysers, and we went whale watching, and everybody looked like us. It was really weird. So, but it was that was pretty cool too. I liked it.
So I edited an article for someone once who said that visiting Iceland was like space tourism. Did you feel like there was like an otherworldly quality to it?
Oh yeah, the landscape, absolutely. It's not meant for humans. It's
Mm.
not a place where humans were ever meant to be. And you can
Hmm.
understand, this is one of the reasons I wanted to go to Iceland, is because um, the Icelanders, I mean, not all of them, but a significant percentage of Icelanders believe in elves and sort of magical creatures, and they believe that they live out, among the rocks and the mosses and in the landscape. And when you go there, you can absolutely understand why they believe that, because it does not look like a place where human beings were meant to be. It looks like a magical land where elves, live in beautiful houses built under rocks. And yeah, so the landscape's amazing, and the buildings there are really different too. All the houses are, I guess you would call the architecture like Victorian, but they're covered with corrugated metal. So it looks like they're made out of cardboard. And my daughter kept asking me, like, why are all the buildings made out of cardboard? And you get the sense that they were built that way so they could be sort of rolled up and carted away at some point. It feels very like if the elves ever come to get them. I don't know. Just all feels very temporary. But it's cool. It's very, very different.
I definitely would like to go there.
Yeah, it's nice. Gosh, it's expensive though. It's like food is like I was not prepared for how expensive the just the food and things were there. But I guess it's an island.
Yeah, they have to import everything.
Yeah, pretty much.
So I have a question from Carmen, who's 10, and she asks, "What do you do when you get writer's block?"
Well, I'm not sure I believe in writer's block. So I think, because writing is a job, and it is hard, and it is supposed to be hard. And I think that that's one of the things that people don't understand. They think that if you're a good writer, that the words and the sentences and the paragraphs just come very easily to you. And that's not true. It's hard for everybody. Even the best writers if it were easy, everyone would do it, and it's not. So, but if it is your job, then you have to do it, even at times when it's not very easy. So you've got to use something called, I didn't come up with this phrase, but it was something that was said about a performer who was able to sit down and do what it needed to be done. And they said he had butt power. And butt power is the ability to sit on your butt until you get the job done. And just sit there and stare at the computer and stare at the page until you get the inspiration that you're looking for. And I think that that's how you overcome writer's block. When it's not coming easily to you, when it's feeling harder than it should, then you just have to sit there and wait for the inspiration to come. And it's not very fun, but that's how you get through it.
Yeah. Do you want to ask some more of your questions, Julia?
Yeah, sure. I remember, I think last year on Bank Street Irregular, the blog, that How to Lead a Life of Crime was compromised, some of the things in there.
Oh, yeah.
What advice do you have for girls that are younger if something happens like that in other situations, like dealing with people who don't want to see them succeed or haters?
Dealing with haters. Yeah. It's who is it said? It was one of those quotes that you see on places. I think I saw this maybe in a bathroom stall somewhere recently, but it was just sort of, I can't even remember who said it, but it said, oh, you have enemies? Well, then great. That means that you've done something with your life. And I think that that's kind of the case. There are always going to be people who don't like what you've done, or are jealous, or just and to be honest, there's just going to be people who don't like you, and that's fine. And I think that you just have to accept that. And I don't know, I think with the how to lead a life of crime thing, that's, believe me, not been the only difficulty I've faced in my long life. But there are some people who let things like that destroy them, and there are some people who pick themselves up and brush themselves off and they move on. And you just kind of have to decide what kind of person you're going to be. Are you going to be the sort of person who lets everyone else, decide how you feel about yourself, or are you going to make that decision for yourself and move on to the next thing? And I think it's hard, but I don't know. It's speaking from my own experience. It's just been a kind of a matter of willpower. You just get through it and move on. And generally, like when you do that, you find you forget about it. The thing that could have killed you, you end up forgetting about very quickly.
Do you want to ask your next question, Julia?
Yeah, sure. This is more about like one of the previous questions, but what's one place that you'd like to go to if we're not like book inspiration or just to see?
Well, everywhere. I really, yeah, traveling is one of the things that I really live for. I love going new places. And one of the things that annoys me very much is that there are parts of the world that I can't feel comfortable going to as a woman. That really, really annoys me. But other than that, there's no place I wouldn't want to go. I have never been to Africa, which I would love to do. So maybe that's the next place I try to go. Preferably somewhere without, Ebola. But
Southern Africa?
I will try to avoid Ebola when I go to Africa. But yeah, Africa, like different parts of Asia. Yeah, I mean, I would love to go to Inner Mongolia. If you gave me a ticket to anywhere, I would get on a plane and go. That's just, I wish I had more time to do more of that.
There's a website, I think it's called Diaries of a Backpacker.com, about this woman who she travels alone to all these different countries, including some, that everyone's like, you can't go there alone as a woman. And I also would be scared to visit a lot of those places. So I read her journals and I'm like, she can take the risk and I'll just learn about it.
I think for me, it would just make me too angry. I wouldn't be able to enjoy myself. So but yeah, I mean, I have a friend who's traveled all over to various places by herself that were very risky and dangerous. And, I admire people who are able to do that. But yeah, I want to stay alive for as long as possible. There's no trip worth that.
Yeah. I was curious when I was reading the Kiki Strike book at the very beginning, where she is exploring all these other, like where she's reading about all these other underground
Oh
cities.
yeah.
I was wondering if all of those were real.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
cool.
Those are absolutely real. And in fact, I would love to go. One of the places I would love to go to are the underground cities in Turkey, because
Mm-hmm.
those are the most magnificent. Like they have, what's it called? I will probably get the pronunciation very wrong, but like Kuru. It's like it's literally 10 stories of underground dwellings, and they had everything from stables to wineries. It was a fully functional city, and it was all underground. And there are lots of, there are, if you go to, what a really great site for this sort of stuff is. Have you ever been to Atlas Obscura?
Mm-mm.
Oh, highly recommend it. For you too, Julia. It's great. It's basically people write little profiles of all the weirdest, most interesting places that they've been to around the world. So you'll get, it's amazing. I just like to go, they've got a random button. So I'll just go and click the random button, read, it's great. So you'll, read about the giant hole in Siberia, and then the next one will be about, the mummies and the, catacombs beneath a certain church in Sicily. So it's just nonstop entertainment. Yeah,
That sounds really cool.
I highly recommend it.
Julia, I'll let you.
Oh.
Sorry, Julia. I can't see you, so I don't always know if you're about to talk. But I'll let you ask your next question now. That's all I was going to say.
Yeah, sure. What's the last inspirational or kind of just like odd thing you've seen?
Most inspirational or odd thing that I've seen? That is a good question. I didn't really leave the house very much today. I am finishing a book by the end of the week. So
Oh.
yeah, you're very lucky that I've showered relatively clean. Because it gets ugly sometimes. That's why I was so exhausted. And I also wake up at about 5 o'clock in the morning. So
Yeah.
this time of night is when I start to fade. But let's see, the most interesting thing I've seen lately. Yeah, one of the things that I like to do is just it's not a thing per se, but I mean, I really do. I know that the second Kiki Strike book takes place or a good deal of it takes place in Chinatown here in New York. But I love, one of my favorite things to do is go to Chinatown and walk around. And you always, I love the fish markets. I love the fact that there are always things that I can't identify there. I love, like, I mean, they have they have fish in these fish markets that, I, I don't know where they're getting them from. They're very unusual looking. And, it's just, I love going and, you know, buying weird fruit and trying things that I haven't tried before. So, I don't know. It's probably, I can't remember exactly what the most interesting thing that I saw lately was, but it was probably somewhere in Chinatown. Just because it's so different from my sort of little neck of the woods.
Now, Julia, I've gone through the questions that girls have sent through. So you can ask your next question whenever you're ready. And then when you come to your last question, just let us know and we can start wrapping up.
Yeah, okay. Do you have a Vespa? I'm just wondering because Kiki Strike has one in the book.
I did. I had a Vespa for a few years, and I loved it. Absolutely loved it, and was prepared to take all sorts of gruff from my parents for riding it. They were very worried that I was going to have an accident in Manhattan, but I kept it for many years, and then I sold it because um, there's one downside to having a Vespa, which is if you live somewhere where it's very cold, once the temperature dips below, I would say probably 35 degrees, it becomes almost impossible to ride it. And I'm not saying just because it's unpleasant. What happens is your fingers and your legs go numb from the cold, so you're not able to sort of maneuver the bike as well as you should. But so I mean, I would end up putting it in the garage for probably 4 months of the year, and it just felt like a waste. So I sold it. But I'm thinking about getting another one. Um, I'll probably wait until spring. But yeah, I loved my Vespa. It was awesome. You felt like you could do it. Not that, believe me, I'm so law abiding when it comes to motor vehicles of any sort. But you always felt like, if something happened, you could hop onto the sidewalk and get where you needed to go. I had all sorts of fantasies about, whatever places I could get on my Vespa that nobody else could go. But good question. I'm not sure I've been asked that before.
You can ask your next question, Julia.
Oh, okay. Just lost. I have them written down somewhere. Just the phone keeps exiting out of it.
Oh.
You're having technical difficulties.
Yep, always.
Yeah, me too. I need my own personal IT assistant.
I married my personal IT assistant.
I was saying, well, that's very, very handy.
Yes, I mean he became my IT assistant after I married him. He wasn't before that.
Well, that's yeah.
But
Yeah. Make sure he teaches you a few things too. Just in case he has to go out of town or something.
yeah, it's definitely handy, and I've learned a little bit more than I knew. That's for sure.
Okay, I have it back. Why do you think so many books are based in New York?
Because it's the greatest place in the world. Well, it's because anything can happen here. And I think that's one of the things that you get a sense of the moment that you step off the plane or the train or whatever it is that brings you here, is that anything can happen. And I think that that's why it's kind of a natural place to set a story. Because if something weird and wonderful and potentially magical and or, horrifying, were to happen, odds are it would probably happen here. If zombies were going to attack, I think they would come to New York first. It's why it's been destroyed about 10,000 times in every conceivable movie. It's just, what other city would they bother to destroy?
That's why I live in South Dakota.
Yeah, exactly. You're safe in South Dakota.
I don't think the zombies will come here first.
And if they do, they'll have to walk a very, very long way.
Yes, and they won't find a ton of people to eat.
They'll all die of hunger.
Did you have more questions, Julia?
Yeah, I have one more.
Okay.
What do you think is the biggest threat to the things that make the world interesting, or like the odd things that you see? Just interesting things.
Yeah, I think it is kind of what we were talking about earlier. I think it's people letting themselves fall into ruts. And the fact that, I think, especially after, and maybe this is one of the reasons that I like writing books about kids, is because I don't think kids are as susceptible to this as adults are. But I think after a certain age, you get so caught up in your work, you get so caught up in your life that you walk around with kind of blinders on, like a horse, and you don't see all of the interesting things that are going on around you. And that's when life stops becoming interesting. And when you stop being open to new experiences and stop looking for new things to try and new places to go. And I think that that's the biggest danger, and I would encourage everyone to go out and just try new things. I mean, the internet's been really great in a lot of ways because people have had access to ideas and to other people and to other cultures that they wouldn't have otherwise. But it's also been really bad in a way too, because it's allowed you to kind of sort of like, this is what you like, here's more of what you like. Have more of what you like. You like dystopian teen fiction? Great. Here's another, and another, and another, and another. And I think what happens is people kind of, their views get very, very narrow, and they stop My daughter is commenting on this as well, so
Oh, good.
I'll ask her what she has to say in a second. But I think it's just your life gets very narrow after at a certain point, and you've got to work very hard to keep your mind open and your eyes open and keep looking for new experiences. It's very easy, I know. Like I said, I didn't leave the house today. It's very easy to fall into a rut and stay there. Georgia, what were you saying? Did you have something you wanted to say? Huh? Come here, you can say it. Come here. Oh, now she's shy.
Now she's shy, yeah.
She's also getting to stay up late too, so.
Oh, lucky her.
It's all right. She's in her pajamas. She's ready to go.
Well, we have we'll wrap up. We're right on schedule more or less, and we have a lot of girls who read the magazine and who use newmoon.com who like to write and who want to be writers. So what advice would you give to girls who are interested in writing?
Sit down. Okay, first of all, write about something that really interests you. Okay? And I know that sounds silly, but it's true. Like, don't try to wait for something that you feel very passionate about. Wait for it. And when you do, it'll make the whole process so much easier. Because I know that when I first started, especially when I was in school, and I would try to write, and I would try to write some brilliant short story about, I don't know, something I knew very little about. And it never really came out very, well. And it wasn't until sort of the idea for Kiki Strike popped into my head, and I felt like there was something that I really wanted to say, that I was actually able to sit down and do it. So I think that, yes, she wants to pet the hamster.
Oh.
Yeah, be careful there, okay? Don't drop her. Okay, so I want to write, this is on the subject of hamsters. I really, really, really want to write maybe it'll be like a picture book, but I have it on very good authority, that there are certain huge apartment buildings in parts of Manhattan that are completely overrun by feral hamsters.
Whoa.
Yeah, the descendants of hamsters that have gotten loose. And now, like, the whole building, it's like they don't have a mouse problem. Like, it's like the buildings are filled with hamsters. So I think
wow.
I think that would make a really good, like, like little picture book, right? Don't you?
Yeah. Just see the hordes of hamsters everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, back to writing. See, that's something I feel passionate about. I can write that book. So find something that you're passionate about and then do it. It's not easy. Like, really get that into your head. It is not supposed to be. I think a lot of people feel like if they're meant to be a writer, then it should feel like they're taking dictation from God or something, like the heavens have opened up and somebody's whispering into your ear and it's just easy. But no, it's always really hard, and it's when the words are flowing, it's a lot of fun, but there are often times when they don't come so easily, and it's a lot of work. And you just have to be prepared for that. You have to be able to do it and sit down and just get through it. So those are my two big. Oh, there's the hamster.
Oh, what a cutie!
Thank you. Don't drop her. This building will be overrun soon.
That was a very cute little hamster.
That's Rosie. We got her yesterday.
Aw.
So yeah. Or day before. Don't do that. You're gonna drop her. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Well, Julia, did you have any last questions before we close out for the night?
No, not really.
Well, this has been really lovely, Kirsten. Was there anything that you wanted to mention that you didn't get a chance to talk about?
No, I think you know, if you some of the younger girls, or guys, uh, like Kiki Strike, they might also enjoy the Nightmare series as
Mhm.
well. So check it out. It's a little bit different, but it's fun. It's scary and funny, which, in my opinion, is the perfect combination. So, the
And are some of those books already out? I know you said you were working on them right now.
first one is out, and
Okay,
yeah, so
great.
out, and it's beautifully illustrated too, so,
Cool.
which I didn't do. So,
Well, thank you so much for your time,
thank
Kirsten. I
you.
really appreciate it, especially when you're in the middle of finishing up a book. So I feel like,
Very nice way to procrastinate. So,
well, I'm glad we could be of a little bit of help then.
great. Thank you too, Julia.
Yeah, Julia, you asked some really great, insightful questions, and I really liked the discussion that they spurred. So thank you for coming up with such good questions.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you guys.
And your daughter's name was Georgia?
Yes.
All right. Good night, Georgia.
Say good night.
Yep.
Thank you.
Good night, Kirsten.
Good
Bye.
night.
Bye,
Bye.
Julia.
Bye.
Bye. Bye, Rosie.
Bye.